And Chair Coleman, I'm not sure if everybody knows about the newest draft. So.
Okay. You mean everybody like that?
Well,
So
I'm saying, sorry.
Oh, okay. We're ready.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Senate Government Operations Committee meeting of May 28th, 2025. We are here to consider H 474. For committee members, you can have two drafts and two section by sections on your desk, 8.1 and 9.1. We're going to consider 9.1 today, which already encompasses what was in 8.1, but suggests further proposal of amendment. And joining us is Sean Sheehan, who's Director of Elections for the Secretary of State's office. So welcome. And if you can go through the changes that you are,
Sorry for the record. I apologize for interrupting Chair Collmore.
All right.
The Secretary of State's office, I don't believe, is aware of the changes in 9.1. However, they do reflect recommendations made by their office, but they may not know the changes word for word on the page.
Okay.
So I'm happy to go through those instead, or
That probably makes more sense. Yeah. So
Thanks, great. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll use it online.
You give me that one.
Yeah.
So they're white cable. So I'll read those. I'll let
good.
them speak through
and
they're familiar with.
Is this highlighted? This seems to be all the changes here.
yes, it is all the changes.
Okay.
Or just I know that when there's some blues have disrupted the some committee members. So I will go through and point out exactly what has been changed in 9.1 from 8.1.
Great.
Okay.
Yep.
And for the record, Tim Devlin, Legislative Council, I apologize for the initial confusion I introduced there of the committee. So the first, so just to paint broad strokes here, this is in sections 13 through 17 of the bill. This has to do with campaign and finance, specifically the reporting thresholds. And so the committee will recall there was some deliberations about a few different kind of axes, I should describe them. So we had candidate versus entities, the latter being parties, political action committees, and independent expenditure only committees, or PACs and super PACs they're commonly referred to. So again, one of the axes is we have candidates versus entities, and then we have registration versus reporting. And we're talking about what triggers each of these events and for whom. So 13 has to do with registration of candidates. And the committee will recall that candidates now have to register essentially campaign finance information when they file the consent candidacy form, actually really prior to as the statute required. This section is not materially being affected. Going on to 14, and this is on page 12, we have the registration for different, no longer registration, but not for candidates, instead for political committees and independent expenditure only political committees. So here we have the trigger for registration is $500 for those entities, whether that be when they expend it or accept contributions of that. So the contribution element is new, as is the check something real quick. As is that monetary threshold. Before on Friday at 8.1, there was no monetary threshold there. So it's just whenever they expended anything that had to register. So now candidates will have to register really without any concern to monetary thresholds. Entities, however, will have to wait may wait until either accepting or expending $500 or more, and then they're required to register with the Secretary of State's office.
And you, as you said, you may wait. You could do it. You could, if you've got $2, you could still go ahead and file just as.
The letter of the law states each political committee or independent expenditure only political committee shall register in the Secretary of State within 10 days after making expenditures of $500 or more, or accepting contributions of $500 or more, and then et cetera, what they need to do. So could, before that, fewer days or. So,
So if someone makes a contribution, $5, the PAC has 10 days to report that in terms of campaign financing.
that is, a different reporting requirement. This is just for registration.
This triggers 500 or more. Okay.
If they did $505,
Then
It
they
is
would have to
new.
report within 10 days.
They would have to register with it. And then
Okay.
reporting is,
All right.
various,
Okay.
secondary,
Is everybody okay and understand that?
if
I
I,
can live with it.
I know.
I can live with it.
All right.
if I was a smart one of these, I would register early. And then as I got expenditures and contributions going on, I would do that in line with that. I wouldn't wait to hit. It's kind of how I see it.
But that would be up to them whether they
It would be
register.
totally up to them.
Okay.
so now,
Yeah.
move to section 15, and this is, breaking across to 14. And here we have campaign reports. That is what triggers, the schedule of reporting for candidates and entities. So here we have 17 VSA 2964, campaign reports, candidates for state office, the general assembly, county office, political committees, independent expenditure, only political committees and political parties. That's a lot of words in just the title of that, but that kind of orients us where we are. So again, we moved on from registration to what triggers campaign reporting requirements. That is that schedule that these and candidates have to follow. So now it is essentially each candidate, and then we'll see reiterate later on, with entities was either roll over any amount of surplus into the candidate's new campaign or was made expenditures or accepted contributions of $500 or more. So before it was $500, but it was missing that it had struck the contribution trigger. So now we'll have the kind of twinning of that's either the expenditures or the contributions. $500 will trigger this
And the rollover funds
in
thing.
the rollover sort of.
Okay.
And let's see. And then similarly, so A1 is for some candidates. There's a second group of candidates for 4-year term county offices, and A2, similar change there off of page 15 for accepting contributions of $500 or more, or making expenditures of $500 or more as well. Then similarly in the B1 for local races, and this is on line 15 of page 14, we have similar modification to the statutes made here, I should say to the draft, or keeping existing language, where we reintroduce the trigger of accepting contributions and or making expenditures. Now, again, the new amount being $500. So, and then top of 16, and a modification to subsection C, which will insert an affirmative duty to report when your candidate or entity has nothing to report. So the new language will read, candidate, political committee, independent expenditure only committee, or political party that is not otherwise required to file a report pursuant to this section shall file with the Secretary of State report in an affirmative statement that the candidate, political committee, independent expenditure only committee, or political party that is not either rolled over any amount of surplus in the new campaign or made expenditures or accepted contributions in the amount specified in the section. So, and this language is actually, there was a similar proposal in the other elections on this bill put forward by Senator Pelosi, and that's what this is based on.
I don't know if I'm not agreeing with or just questioning why anybody would need to do that if they've already lived up to all the campaign finance requirements in terms of filing reports. Why they need to file another one saying, I don't have anything else to say, in essence.
The idea here, though, is that with the reintroduction of the $500 threshold, it's possible that entities they fall below it, and therefore wanting there's this statement that will be filed that states either it's zero or some amount of below 500. And although I'm kind of speculating here, I probably shouldn't. I believe it has to do with enforcement options here too, but I'll defer to the Secretary of State's office to deliver the policy rationale behind it.
Okay, Senator Hills.
Yeah, I'm certainly happy to kind of, the conversation came up as we've sort of had discussions about enforcement in the past. And in this most recent sort of cycle, we had some, for the first time, I wouldn't call it enforcement, but reminders. And what we heard was that because of the threshold, if someone doesn't file, we have no idea if they didn't file because they missed the deadline or didn't feel like doing it, or if they weren't required to. And so this attestation was just sort of a way of making sure everyone was sort of affirmatively saying, no, I don't need to file. And that's why I didn't file. Because what it, in a future world where hopefully we have some kind of enforcement, we would never actually be able to implement it because we would look and say, oh, this person didn't file, but I don't know if they should have or if they didn't need to. So that was the sort of circle this was trying to fix, I guess.
Okay, so as it stands now in Thurman, a candidate at some point after 2 weeks after the election will file a final report and could have $499 left over. And right now, they don't have to report anything more than this is my final report and put a balance on it. And that's it until they either run again or file a consent form. Does this sort of complicate that process? In other words, it seems like all we're doing is spending a whole bunch of time reporting stuff that, quite honestly,
Well, we could go back to the 0 threshold for everyone and then we don't need this.
absent that, Senator Wade.
I appreciate what you're saying, Chair Collmore. I think it gives a little bit of peace of mind to folks who have maybe felt that the thresholds have been like an out, where then someone doesn't really have, you can't necessarily, someone might have bought lawn signs and then they go, oh, well, I spent under $500 or I raised less. That's kind of how it's been seen in our area, is it's like these people are spending money and then they're still not filing. So maybe they really are doing that and that's accurate. So having the attestation, I think, if that's the right way to put that, I don't know if attestation, that gives, I think, a little bit of peace of mind of like, okay, this isn't just a loophole for you saying, oh, I forgot to report or I didn't report. And I stick by that I didn't actually spend that money or do those things. That I think gives a little bit more credibility to it. But I understand, yeah, it's going to be slightly annoying if you're someone who doesn't fundraise robustly or doesn't need to fundraise robustly to win your election. Like Senator Dick McCormick probably would be annoyed by this because I don't think he raised any money.
Ever.
Yeah. So he never had to fill anything out, got off scot-free, but
I'm not talking about during the campaign. I understand that. And the 15th or whatever of the month, you got to do it. I'm talking about when the election's over, when everything's put back to bed, to have to file one more thing after the final report seems to me to be unnecessary busy work that just keeps somebody busy. If I file my final report and I still have $800 left over, so what? It isn't affecting anything yet. I'm not a candidate again yet.
Sure. And I should just note for the community's awareness that this is contained to the filing requirements of this section. Final reports are a different statutory section. So
If you're looking for that at all,
is there?
probably a bad word to use. Have we changed that at all?
We change what's
The final report
the
provision.
final report provisions have not been changed.
All right,
Let's see
fine.
if that is. Yes, that's actually, that's 265. Let me just double check that real quick. 5. I should say it has not been materially changed. We did insert independent expenditure on the political committee into it, so that would pair, so match political committee, but we have not changed anything else in that section.
Okay. I guess I'm okay with this then. I'm gonna hire somebody just to do the reporting. Honestly,
it's annoying.
rather than campaign, I'm stuck in my computer doing all this busy work.
I have some, that's it.
I have a treasurer that did online.
All right, well, I guess that's for Old Country
You know
Board.
what? We'll help you.
We'll help you.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Tim.
And just a quick note, there's just two other changes to statutory title name. So section 17B, I read it that it should now read political committees, surplus campaign funds, as it currently does. The different version is going to amend that. And then section 17E, top of page 20, removes all political committees and political parties. So just now state final reports and the cycle reports. And that's the section where you sign. That's it.
Okay, committee, any questions for Tim? Senator Bihovsky has to leave in 5 minutes, so if you want to stand by, and then Sean, if you within 4.5 minutes, sure, can encapsulate. Have we addressed the concerns that were expressed over the weekend?
Yes, in large part, Sean Sheehan, Elections Director, Secretary of State's
Yeah.
office. Yeah, it did address, I think, how we can operate things logistically. There's just one word I wanted to flag, if reading it right here, was in section 14, page 12, line 14,
Yeah,
which is the registration.
right.
It says for the political committees that each political committee shall register with Secretary of State within 10 days after making expenditures of $500 or more and accepting contributions of $500 or more.
It should be or, shouldn't it?
Right, well, it should align with section 15, it's or in section 15, so section 15, line 16 to 17 says or, so or would mean they would have to report, but potentially not have to register, so we'd obviously want them to have to register, so.
So Tim, we can change that conjunction.
Sure.
I think it's a good junction.
Conjunction, yep. Other than that, I think it,
Back to conjunction.
but yes, I think that captured the, feedback and what we.
Okay, I guess we'll accept both changes and we'll see what happens. I can't predict the future of this bill, so I think everybody understands that. Most of it do.
Is the or change gonna make it 9.2 or 10.1?
It would make it 10.1, but it's, I can.
No, do it.
We haven't hit double figures yet this year, so.
That's exciting.
If it's supposed to be 10.1, it should be 10.1.
Yep. And then when that's done, Tim, if you want to send it to Megan and or Autumn, then they can post it on the website, and at that point, we can take our
Yes.
swimmies off and we're just gonna stand in the shallow end of the pool and see what happens. That'll wear it out.
I know, I thought it was a great analogy.
Very nice visual.
What?
It sounds lovely, actually.
Yeah, I love
Beautiful, sunny, warm.
Okay, committee, that's all I have for the day. We're on the floor again in an hour and 2 minutes. I don't know what else we're gonna do. We kind of walked through the calendar, so unless they're
We
gonna.
adjourned, so it advanced the calendar. We didn't recess, we adjourned,
Oh,
so the
Why
calendar
aren't
still had
you-
advanced.
very attentive. I didn't pick that piece up. Okay,
Yeah.
so we could take stuff up in those calendars.
Yes.
Do you want me to?